I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch network. I don't know about you folks, but I prefer a president who actually does things for the American people, who talks about issues that are important to the American people. I do not want to wake up every morning to the ranting and ravings of a complete and utter lunatic. And that is what we see every single day with Donald Trump. His conduct, his behavior is a national disgrace. It is disqualifying, yet MAGA Republicans continue to go down deeper in the rabbit hole of the MAGA cult to support this maniac even more. I want to show you the posts and conduct, behavior of Donald Trump over the past 24 hours, and I want to compare that with what President Joe Biden is saying and doing. So here's what Donald Trump does when he wakes up in the morning, all caps. Projection and Confession 101, Donald Trump writes, "The Democrats must stop interfering with our upcoming 2024 presidential election. The weaponization and cheating must stop. Make America great again!" Exclamation point. And it's all projection and confession. One of the teachings and lessons of one of the things that the Nazis and other fascist regimes have done is accuse the other of that which you do. Spread the lie. The bigger the lie, the more likely people are to believe it, because people don't want to believe, wow, you're just lying about everything. So here, Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans each and every day are trying to rip apart the fabric of our democracy, undermine our democracy, suppress people's right to vote. And of course, in 2020, Donald Trump's attempt to overthrow the results of the free and fair election and make the loser, Donald Trump, the winner by changing votes from Joe Biden, now President Biden, to Donald Trump. And no, that's not an issue of free speech. I have a free speech right to change votes from the winning candidate to the losing candidate unlawfully. No, that is a crime. That's a serious criminal offense to overthrow our democracy. Yeah, it's a little bit something called treason. And so Donald Trump knows that he's charged with those crimes. So what do? You follow the teaching of Joseph Goebbels and you accuse the other and say, they're cheating, they're interfering, look what they're doing. No, we all saw with our eyes the criminal conduct that you engaged in each and every single day, whether it's overthrowing our democracy, having a jury find you liable for sexual abuse. We hear you on tape bragging about sexual abuse, whether it is paying hush money payments to adult film actresses, whether it's engaging in fraudulent valuations of your property and saying, it's okay, I'll get the Saudis to pay me whatever I want. That conduct is unacceptable. Donald Trump's next post, whining about the prosecutor from Delaware, the top prosecutor who he appointed, the Republican prosecutor David Weiss, who caved, by the way, to the pressure applied on him by Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans like Jim Jordan and James Comer. And you had a situation where David Weiss indicted Hunter Biden on 3 gun-related charges. Charges that have never been brought before in the history of Delaware. And one of the things I think that doesn't get enough attention is that because of the threats that are applied to people like David Weiss, when Donald Trump posts this, when the MAGA Republicans engage in that behavior, the individual's lives are targeted. So someone like David Weiss gets death threats. And then he has to get protection from the FBI. And then eventually he caves and he goes, well, enough. I just got to do what they want me to do. And so I'm going to indict on 3 gun charges. 3 gun charges? What are you even talking about? These are the MAGA Republicans who walk around with AR-15 pins. Are you kidding me? That's what they're bringing against Hunter Biden. And now it's never enough for them to, because after all of the other conspiracy theories have been debunked and there's no evidence to prove them, they charged Hunter Biden with gun charges. And now Donald Trump's attacking David Weiss for doing that. He goes, Prosecutor Weiss is appointed by the 2 Democrat senators of Delaware under blue slip. Okay, you appointed him. You appointed David Weiss, a Republican. Donald Trump then goes, the gun charge, is the only crime that Hunter Biden committed that does not implicate crooked Joe Biden. 1 down, 11 to go. The Democrats, with all their horrible, very unfair, and mostly illegal witch hunts, have started a process that's very dangerous for our country. They opened up the proverbial Pandora's box, and it's possible that the USA will never be the same again. So sad. No, the USA will never be the same again if this fascist, if this despicable, treasonous, traitor, despicable person comes into power again. He will destroy our country. He will destroy our democracy. And frankly, he is a threat to the entire free world. Again, it's projection, it's confession, and his intentions are repeatedly told to us each and every day what he wants to do. It is a disgrace that the Republican Party has become the cult of this truly despicable human being. Here's his next post. Birds of a feather flock together, huh? Donald Trump goes, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton was easily reelected last November, but now establishment rhinos, that's what he's calling Texan Republicans from Texas who sit in the House and the Senate, real right-wing conservative people. He goes, they're rhinos. Why? Because they're not the cult of Donald Trump. They're not okay with Ken Paxton taking bribes so that he could have his mistress live with him. I mean, in addition to securities fraud and other criminal conduct. Wow, that must make these Republicans rhinos that they're not okay with that. But don't you see the conduct by Ken Paxton is very Trumpy? It's like the same exact type of conduct that Donald Trump engages in. So no wonder Donald Trump is cool with a guy who uses his office to accept bribes, to cover up a mistress, and transporting a mistress and getting the mistress a job and making sure that she's close enough to him so he doesn't even have to drive to her. And by the way, Ken Paxton's wife is a state senator who was at the impeachment trial while the mistress was going to be called as a witness. But yeah, I guess it's rhinos. I guess it's rhinos in Texas that they're to blame for this. I guess it's the rhinos, right, Donald? The rhinos, they made you pay hush money payments to a porn star after your wife gave birth. That's a very rhino. The rhinos did that, right? The rhinos were the ones who told you to brag about sexual abuse. Were the rhinos involved in the E. Jean Carroll case? Was that a rhino thing too? Here's the thing. If you're not part of the cult of this moronic, treasonous traitor, they'll call you rhino Marxist. Again, another trait of fascism. It is staring us in the eyes. Remember it. Here's what Donald Trump says. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton was easily reelected last November, but now establishment rhinos are trying to undo that election with the shameful impeachment of him. Who would replace Paxton, one of the toughest and best attorney generals in the country? Could it be a Democrat or even worse, a rhino? The voters have decided who they want. Democrats are feeling very good right now as they watch as usual. The Republicans fight and eat away at each other. It's a sad day in the great state of Texas. I just hope the Republicans in Texas recognize when he says things like, even worse than a Democrat is a rhino. This is the type of language to dehumanize human beings and treat them like cockroaches so that atrocities can be committed on them. And the first people, by the way, who the MAGA Republicans are likely going to go after are the people who the so-called rhinos, right? They're the ones who are being kicked out and purged. And if Donald Trump gets power, I believe it will get violent and I believe it will have some real serious implications. That's how the rhetoric is being ratcheted up and it needs to stop. There's no place for that in the United States of America. Oh yeah, and then there's this one. Donald Trump goes, it's all happening, even worse than anyone projected. President Vladimir Putin of Russia is using crooked Joe Biden's illegal banana republic style treatment of his political opponent who is beating him badly in the polls to condemn America and all of the good things it once stood for. Yeah, so Donald Trump is using Vladimir Putin condemning America, saying, look, Vladimir Putin thinks it's improper that I'm being prosecuted. How embarrassing for Vladimir Putin to be criticizing the United States of America. No, it's not. He's trying to destroy the United States of America. And he wants to turn you and America into a satellite nation of Russia. That's what he's trying to do. And yet people like you and Vivek Ramaswamy and this whole MAGA Republican thing idolize that fascist in Russia who's weak, who pretends to be a strong man. That's not what a real strong man is. Ridiculous. All right, here is what President Biden is posting about. Maganomics says the only possible way to reduce the deficit is to cut Medicare and Social Security. On my watch, the deficit has already fallen by over $1 trillion, and I signed legislation to reduce it by another $1 trillion over the next decade. President Biden, Maganomics gives $5.1 trillion in tax cuts skewed to the wealthy people and big corporations, and cuts $700 billion from Social Security and $1 trillion from Medicare. Think about that. No, seriously, think about that. Think about what the MAGA Republicans want to do. Take away your Social Security, take away your Medicare, and give tax breaks to billionaires because they say, oh, the billionaires are going to trickle it down on you. Seriously? You're going to root for, let's give the billionaires 6, 7, 8 more yachts and private jets, and maybe then they'll trickle it down on you. Or do you want to be treated the right way? Do you want to be treated fairly? Do you want better working conditions? Do you want the wage that you deserve? That's the choice. President Biden and the policies of Democrats and the pro-democracy coalition that's been formed want to make sure that people are treated with respect, that the 99.9% also of Americans are treated fairly, are treated with dignity, are paid fairly, can afford prescription drugs, have access to education, have Social Security, have access to Medicare. And MAGA Republicans want to take that away. This isn't like a hypothetical. That's just the reality, folks. President Biden says it's time billionaires paid at least 25% minimum tax, as President Biden says. We're mobilizing a whole of country effort to cut America's cancer death rate by half in the next 25 years and boost support for patients and families. And it starts with a government-wide effort like the first ever cancer cabinet to unleash every asset within our power. And again, President Biden talks about Maganomics, tax cuts for the wealthy, cuts to Social Security and Medicare, raise costs for the middle class. Bidenomics, making the wealthy and big corporations begin to pay their fair share, protecting Social Security and Medicare, lowering costs. Folks, the choice is that simple. That's why Fox and the propaganda machine, they want to get you so distracted on the wedge issues. They want you to wake up thinking about bathrooms. They want you to wake up thinking about woke this, woke that. They want you to wake up thinking about, oh, is this Disney character so woke? They want you to wake up thinking about how to divide this country because they don't want you thinking about your job. They don't want you thinking about your working conditions. They don't want you to think about healthcare. They don't want you thinking about Social Security. They want you to think about those issues because if you actually focus on issues that matter to you and your family, not only are MAGA Republicans so out of touch, they are antagonistic. They are attacking those things. That's not hyperbolic. It just is what they are doing. Look at what they're saying. Look at what they want to do. Why do you think they're talking to you about all those other issues? You know why? Because they're trying to distract you from those issues. There you have it, folks. I think the decision is clear, but you tell me in the comments below. Hit subscribe. We're on our way to 2 million subscribers. Check us out on patreon.com/MeidasTouch. I just did my own origin story on patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Check it out. And go to MeidasTouch.com for more. Have a great day.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.MeidasTouch.com. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.